Welcome back to Just Scrap Radio on BJPenn.com. I'm your host, Cole Shelton, episode 171. So, live out of UFC Denver. Hopefully, all you guys had a good 4th of July, July 1st for me in Canada. And back in action here. We're first up going to be joined by Julian Erosa to preview his fight against Christian Rodriguez. This is a really fun fight. This fight, to me, is one of the one I'm most looking forward to. Julian, coming off that good submission win over Ricardo Ramos. It's a really tough test for Christian Rodriguez, who coming off that controversial win over Isaac Bulgarian. I thought that fight was a draw, but really good chance for Christian if he could beat a guy like Julian to prove that he's kind of knocking on that top 15 door. We're then going to be joined by Cody Brundage to preview his fight against Abdul Razak Al Hassan. This fight should be all action, whether it's Cody getting him down to the ground or Abdul knocking Cody out. But Cody, coming off that loss to Bo Nickel, he said he learned a lot in that fight, believes if he's a bit more patient, he can have a lot more success, and he thinks he can take Abdul down and avoid that knockout power shot, which Abdul is known for, that one-punch power. And then we close things out talking to Josh Fremd and Andre Petroski to preview their fights against each other. This is opening the card, which I'm pretty surprised, but both these guys are pretty exciting middleweights. Andre, 2-fight losing streak, doesn't really think he's fighting for his job, but knows he's got to beat a guy like Josh Fremd. He's going to be anything in the UFC. Josh kind of agreed. He says if he's going to become anything in the UFC, he needs to beat Andre. He believes he's fought that tougher level of competition. He said he learned a lot from that Kopylov fight, and he thinks the later the fight goes, the better it is for him, as he does think Andre will slow down. But be sure to share the show, subscribe, and tune in next week for another episode of Just Scrap Radio. All right, we're joined by UFC featherweight Julian Erosa, who's back in action, heading down to Denver in July for a fight. Julian, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. I always enjoy chatting with you. Like, coming off that big first-round win in March, like, was this about the right time for you? Hoping, I know you like to be as active as possible, so are you hoping a bit sooner than middle of July?
No, this is actually perfect. You know, obviously, like, what I've noticed is it's become a bit harder to get, like, quick fights back-to-back unless it's, like, a short notice thing or you're filling in for somebody. And so for me, I just wanted to fight before August. My brother-in-law is getting married. We're actually gonna go drive to Colorado, me and my wife and our newborn, and go to his wedding. And so I just wanted to fight before that. You know, preferably just to get, you know, do a fight before that. I have to be in camp and, you know, traveling all over the place. And also just for timeline issues. You know, I want to fight, you know, 3 or 4 times this year, and you can only do that if you get them, you know, every 3 to 4 months.
And Christian Rodriguez, like, were you surprised this was the opponent? Or for you, is it just kind of whoever they offer you?
Whoever they offer me, man. You know, it's one of those things that I actually got offered somebody else. I don't want to, you know, say any names, but I got offered somebody else. They ended up declining, and so they gave me Christian after that. And, you know, I was happy that, you know, someone was willing to step up on that date. It really doesn't matter to me specifically who it is. It's more about the timelines. Like I said, you know, everybody has their camps and, you know, has their vacations and their family things that they're doing on certain days. So for me, it was just like, if I could get a fight before August, that's what I was looking for. And so July 13th, they offered me a guy, and then he turned it down. So I was a little upset in the sense of, like, possibly not being able to fight on that card, because that was a perfect time for me. And I like Denver, man. Denver's fun to go up there. Elevation's high. I got good cardio, so I'm not necessarily worried about the elevation. You know, it's going to hit everybody differently, obviously, but I fought up there once before, and it didn't seem to affect me much. And so I'm looking forward to going up there and put it on the show.
I know you like fighting at the Apex just because it's so close to home for you. Like, you get in and out, you can sleep in your own bed on fight week. So, like, are you happy, though, you're fighting in front of fans, or do you, like, kind of just wish you're still at the Apex?
You know, a little bit of both. For me, like I said, you know, it was more about the date. You know, July 13th is what I wanted. Obviously, I would have loved to fight at the Apex here or T-Mobile Arena, or, you know, just somewhere in Vegas. That way I can get back home to my son, who's, you know, only 3 months, will be like 4 months at the time. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's, you know, you got to sacrifice, you know, but, you know, we've been sacrificing this whole time we've moved to Vegas, you know, like 7 years ago. So I'm willing to make those sacrifices. And also at the same time, man, last time I fought in front of a crowd was at the T-Mobile against Hakeem Dawodu, and it was one of those things that you forget how it feels until you do it. And, I've always been happy with the Apex and not really much of a crowd there. But after I seen the crowd and feeling the crowd at the T-Mobile Arena, it was just, it was one of those unexplainable feelings that I'm looking forward to getting to get that feeling again.
How familiar were you with Christian?
Not familiar at all. I didn't know who he was specifically by name, but I did watch the Raul Rosas fight versus him because Raul is somewhat of a training partner. I've trained with him a handful of times here in Vegas. So obviously watched that fight. But I didn't know, like, when they gave me the name, I didn't know that was who it was. And I looked his record up and, seeing who he fought and who he is. And, like I said, it didn't really matter to me. It was like, whoever they're going to give me, I'm going to say yes to. It could be anywhere from a debut to the champion. I don't fight anybody.
And then he is a former bantamweight. I know struggled to make weight, moved up to featherweight. Like his last fight, I imagine you've watched by now. Like, what did you take away from that? Because I thought he actually lost or was going to be a draw against Isaac.
Yeah, I guess Bulgarian. I think I actually thought I thought there was no way he was going to win that fight unless he got a finish in the final round. Just because I thought Bulgarian won the second round for sure, and for sure won the first round. But a lot of people thought it might have been a 10-8 the way they're giving 10-8s now. And he absolutely dominated the first round. Like, there's no question about it. Was it dominating enough to get a 10-8? That's more of the iffy part. But yeah, it should have been a draw at the very least, if not Bulgarian winning that fight. Obviously, Bulgarian gave up in the end of that fight. But that was kind of his style. Bulgarian's one of those big, strong wrestler type of dudes who can manhandle you. But if you stick around to the last round and they have any kind of break in them, they will. And I think that's what happened to Bulgarian. Although he held on and didn't get finished, which was that showed a bit of his heart as well. But I thought Christian lost that fight. And he lost his other fight at featherweight against Pierce, although he took that short notice. And out of two of the bantamweight fights that he won, he missed by a substantial amount of weight. Like, even with Raul and missing by 4 or 5 pounds at a 35, even 45 is a lot of weight. And I feel the difference between guys all the time, even in the gym, by a few pounds. And it's like that could be the difference between getting someone down and controlling them and not getting them down and controlling them. And I feel like Raul was looking great in that fight, and then I think that weight, definitely kind of made an impact, and you could tell Raul was getting a bit more desperate, and it was becoming harder and harder to get C-Rod down. And not to take anything away from C-Rod, but who knows if C-Rod had to go cut those pounds and made that weight and it wasn't as heavy the next day, who knows? Maybe Raul gets him down and controls him a bit more, because Raul's got good cardio. He's not like Bulgarian where he's going to fully gas out. He's going to have enough cardio to go the whole distance and look decent doing so. So, there's an asterisk by, a lot of his wins in the UFC, it being an iffy win on the Bulgarian, but also only getting wins. A lot of his big wins are, weight misses.
Mm. And with Christian, like, he's a good wrestler, like, pretty well rounded. Like, but do you expect him just try to wrestle you? Like, I know a lot of guys aren't big fans of striking with you, just how kind of rangy you are. So do you expect him to kind of wrestle you pretty early here?
Watching his fights, I don't think he's a very strong, like, individual. He seems like a guy that just, is kind of flows with things, kind of like me. I'm not trying to grab you, pick you up, and put you down. I try to get things in transition. And I feel like he fights the same kind of way. He's a Duke Rufus guy, so obviously his striking is probably going to be his best asset. And I'm down for that too. I'm long rangey. And I got a lot of those long-range distance strikes that I use really well against the guys, kind of at his height and his size. So I think I'll definitely have that advantage. But like I said, I also think he's just one of those guys that's well-rounded. He's not a specialist in anything specifically, but he's great. He's good at everything as well. So just like me, I'm good everywhere. I'm not necessarily a specialist in anything. I would say my cardio is probably made my specialty. But I think he's good everywhere too, and he's got good cardio. So it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be more of I feel like a chess match versus, I'm not going to try to take him down and control him like Bulgarian did, and I don't think he's going to do the same to me. I think we're going to be a bit more freestyled in our fighting, in our game plans, in fighting each other. So it'll be a fun one to watch. I think there's going to be a lot of cool and intriguing things that happen in our fight versus just guys that have a focused game plan on somebody.
Are you going out to Denver any earlier than normal to get accustomed? I know your cardio is like never a problem for you, but are you heading out any early to get accustomed to the elevation?
I was thinking about it, and then I decided not to really worry about it just because I fought Devontae Smith over there on it was like a 10-day notice, and I went there the week of. And although the fight didn't go my way, I got knocked out in like a minute. And it wasn't a long fight to really test my cardio in the fight. I trained when I was there. Obviously we're training the week of. not as hard, but we're just pushing our bodies. We're still getting the cardio going, and I didn't see much difference in the cardio. I didn't feel the elevation too much. And I think that's because in Las Vegas, like we have we have a little bit of elevation, but one thing that we have over everybody else is how dry it is here, and I feel like that almost equates to a little bit of the elevation, because when you're at high elevation, what happens is the back of your throat gets that irony taste in it, and it's like it's kind of hard to breathe. But we have that here just as bad, and not only that, we have a lot of allergens in the air. So if you can handle, I feel like Las Vegas has always been kind of the hardest place to get accustomed to with your cardio coming from a different place. So I feel like if you have good cardio here in Vegas and you train your consistently, then you can go most anywhere else, and it'll be okay.
With this one, how do you kind of see it playing out then?
Yeah, I think I honestly feel like me and Christian are gonna do a lot of fighting on the feet, but I could see us going to the ground as well. I do think that I could be able to catch a Darce choke on him somewhere in the transitional periods of the fight. He likes to give his back up and to stand up to get up from underneath people, and when people do that, that's kind of like my perfect spot for where I like to get my Darce, my front headlock chokes. Dalgarian kept trying to get his back. I'm not one of those guys. Maybe I'll take his back, but I'm more of a front headlock kind of guy, and so I think I'll have the advantage in that area of the fight if it does go to the ground.
Say you do finish him or just a win anyways. Like, where do you think a win does for you? Like 2 in a row, like kind of derail a bit of his hype that he's kind of building up. So, like, what do you think a win does for you in this division?
Man, win keeps my job, baby. That's all I care about. Gives me another paycheck. Gives me another fight, and that's really all I'm worried about. I got a 3-month-old, and I'm just trying to take care of my family, but also being able to chase his career down as much as I can. And I go in there thinking about just the fight, not necessarily what's going to happen afterwards. And like I said, I got offered somebody previously, so anything can happen, right? Like if I win, lose, or draw this fight, a week later they could offer me somebody. They could, or they could say yes or no, and you get offered somebody else. You could step in short notice against a ranked opponent. You could, step in for a debut or something. So it's really, I never really try to think about what's going to happen afterwards because there's so many variables involved with that. But it definitely puts me on the right track. I had those 3 wins in a row, ending with Hakeem Dawodu, that really put me in a good spot. And then I had 2 losses in a row, so I really kind of I maybe take a step back. And then I got a good win over Ricardo, so I just want to keep pushing off that momentum, off that Ricardo Ramos win, and try to get another finish. I think a finish is obviously a lot better than just winning by decision. So because you'll see it, even Dalgarian lost that fight by decision, but I don't think he lost that fight. So I never go into a fight thinking let's go to decision and I'm just gonna try to win every minute. I'm trying to kill the entire time I'm in there. So that's really what I'm hoping for. That's really what I'm going for.
Is there more pressure on you now having a kid? Like just having get these wins and make sure you get that double pay and kind of keep your job now?
I would say it's a little bit of both. When I had my son, it was 8 days before I fought Ricardo, and when I went out and fought Ricardo, I felt it was about the most calm I've ever been in my life. I think it was because seeing my wife go through what she had been through to have our son, and then seeing him born. It was such a huge event in my life that it made everything else feel small. Like, oh, I fight for a living. Like, well, if the worst thing that happens to it happens to me is I lose a fight, that's nothing in comparison to what my wife just went through. So it really took an edge off going into that fight. But yeah, there's still on the other side of that coin, it is very important for me to get wins and keep my job and support my family. Obviously, I know being a fighter, and most fighters will attest to this, is that it doesn't matter what happens to us. We'll always make a way to fight. We'll always find a way to support our family because we're hard workers. To make it to the UFC, and especially the way I have been in and out of the UFC, just worked my ass off to get where I'm at. If I had to drop everything and go get a job at McDonald's, that's what I'll do because I'm willing to work and I'm willing to provide for my family. So I'm not necessarily worried about maintaining my job. I just want to go out there and be able to perform the best of my abilities and focus on getting wins, not for necessarily job security, or even the money, just for my own sanity and my own legacy that I want to provide for my son.
Just final thing, you said you kind of have something in August. What is kind of the goal then for the rest of the year? Hope at least one more, maybe get on that Sphere card or something in Vegas.
Yeah, like I said, yeah, anything can happen. Maybe someone falls down, I can hop in on something like that. That'd be awesome. I mean, it's a one in a life, one in a million chance to get on that. Especially with the lineup they're probably going to try to have for that card. So, but honestly, I just want to fight. Obviously July 13th, and then I'll try to get something maybe in the fall time. And then possibly turn around again in the winter. But you never know. Like I said, it's becoming a bit harder to get quicker fights. So at least 3 is what I want. So obviously July is like you were in the middle of the year, and so I still have 6 months basically of the year to 2024 to get another fight. So I think I could for sure get another fight, if not 2 more. And just stay active, stay busy, and be healthy while I'm doing it.
Well, Julian, I appreciate the time as always. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate you, Cole. Thanks for having me on.
All right, we're jumping UFC middleweight Cody Brundage, who's back in action at UFC Denver. Cody, how's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always enjoy chatting with you. Like, before we get into this, just the last one, like, what do you, your last fight against Bo, just kind of all that hype going into it, like, what do you take away from that fight? Because I think even though you lost, like, I think you kind of gained a lot of fans. Like, your stock rose for, like, how well you did in that fight. Because I think everyone, especially with the betting odds, kind of expect you just to lose in, like, 10 seconds.
Yeah, I feel like I just got to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more composed, in terms of things I didn't do very well. I feel like I was really aggressive and really went after him hard, but kind of put me in some spots that I didn't necessarily need to be in. But yeah, it was a cool experience. UFC 300, that will be one they talk about for a long time. So it was cool to be a part of that. It was cool to go through the whole media week. I was doing as much media as championship fighters do, so it was cool to go through that and see what that's like. And yeah, it was a good fight. Props to Bo, got the job done, but I feel like I could have done some things better in there to give myself a better shot for sure.
And returning 3 months later to the date, like, how happy are you to getting a quick turnaround like this?
Super happy, man. I love fighting. I love being in there. I don't do well with long layoffs. I try to stay as active as possible, try to stay ready. So I appreciate the UFC keeping me busy.
Uh, in your 10th UFC fight, like, is that pretty crazy that you already had double digits?
Yeah, it came fast, but I'm proud of that. It's kind of like I always say, UFC is the NFL of our sport, and it's kind of like the NFL. There's a lot of turnover. It's hard to get deep into a career in the UFC. You don't see many guys get to double digits, so I'm proud of that, and hopefully get 10 more after this one.
Yeah, like, I think it's not, like, easy to get into the UFC, but it's easy to get that first contract. I think it's a lot harder to get that second contract compared to that first one, just because guys step in on, like, a week notice or whatever, but it's hard kind of staying around for that long.
Yeah, it's hard sticking around, that's for sure. Win streaks are hard to come by, and you need win streaks to stick around. So I've been fortunate, had some things work out my way, had some grace from the matchmakers, and then was able to have some good performances to kind of stay around.
And with Abdul Razak Al Hassan, like, how familiar were you with him?
He fought on the first UFC event I ever went to live in Detroit. I watched him knock out Hamasi. He's a beast, man. I'm pretty familiar with him. I've been a fan of him. I like his style. Obviously, I'm a fast starter. He's a fast starter. So I'm excited, man. I think it's one that the fans should be looking forward to. It's an exciting fight. Both of us, don't like being in there too long, and I think there'll be some chaos for sure.
Obviously, very dangerous striker. Like, we've seen him knock guys out with one punch. We've kind of seen some paths to beat him with, like, Malkoun and Fiverr taking down to the ground. So, like, how much do you study those fights? Those, like, other grapplers have been able to have success, and, like, kind of what takedowns led to them be able to get him down, because he does stuff quite a few.
Yeah, I've watched a good amount of film. I think it's always dangerous to watch too much film and kind of be completely focused on what he's doing and what he does really well. If I go out there and do the things that I can do really well and don't focus so much on him, I feel like it's a good night for me. Everyone's telling me, you got to be careful first round, and I definitely agree with that. He's a fast starter, like I said. He has a lot of power, but if you look at most of my fights, I get people out of there in the first round too. So if he doesn't come correct on his P's and Q's, I'll get him out of there as well. So, I don't feel like there's this huge power disadvantage. I don't feel like there's a huge striking disadvantage for me. So I'll be happy wherever the fight takes place.
And fighting in Denver, like, how happy are you to be part of this card? Like, obviously, your new home, living out there, training out there. So, how pumped are you to be on this?
Yeah, it's just convenient, right? Like I don't have to travel. I get to be around my family and my kids, and I get to save the expense of going out there, renting a car, having extra hotel rooms, supporting everybody that comes out there. So uh, all of those things make it sweet. And then, it's cool. I get to be home, and it's something I wanted. When I heard they were coming to Denver, I asked to be on this card, and they made it happen. And uh, like I said, appreciate him for that. But the other thing too is the elevation. Obviously, elevation is a big factor. People coming up here, and I know Razak used to train here. I know for the majority of this camp, he went down to Texas, and he's been back now he's been back starting last week, so he's going to be acclimated. But it's just different if you're not living here trying to acclimate. So I've been here almost 4 years now. I'm pretty well acclimated. My wife fought on the UFC card the last time they were in Denver, so that's kind of cool. And yeah, it'll be exciting. I'm pumped for it.
I talked to Josh last week, and he was kind of bringing up you guys were a bit surprised in the gym that there's not more you guys on from Factory X or even just Elevation. Like, there's not a whole lot of local guys they put on this card. Like, I thought Royval could have headlined it. Like, I know Jacoby obviously got that big fight against Reyes, but like if that didn't happen, maybe he's on this card. But I thought there'd be more of you guys on this card.
Yeah, when all the stuff happened with Lionheart too, I thought maybe Anthony would come out here. They would push that Roman Anthony fight back a couple weeks to headline once Macy fell out of her title fight. But at one point we did have four people. We had me, Josh, Markel, and Macy. I feel like that's a lot from one gym. It just unfortunate circumstances. Markel and Macy weren't able to make it to fight night, but so we had more people. This has been a crazy 2 months in MMA, and Denver's obviously caught the bug, and people have fallen out of fights. But yeah, I thought guys like Neil Magny, staples in Colorado MMA would have possibly been on the card, and they aren't. So kind of interesting there. Interesting decision. But it is what it is. I feel like I'm trying to think like who actually is from Denver that's on the card. Me, Josh, Dober, Rose.
Yeah.
So four people. I mean, not a ton. You would think that they'd have more people. You'd think that less people would want to come to Elevation, to fight. But it is what it is.
But fighting in Denver, like at home, like does that add a bit more pressure on you? Where like I imagine you probably getting some people being like, "Oh, give me tickets," or "Oh, I'm coming up to watch you." Like, does that add a bit, or do you kind of enjoy that where you're getting so many people to come out to support you?
Yeah, I don't really feel more pressure. I wouldn't say by having people there or being close to home. I don't know. I don't really feel that. There's pressure in fighting for sure, but I feel like the more fights I've had, the less that's felt like a burden, and the less it's really weighed on me. I would say, if it was my first fight in the UFC and at home and all of these things, I think it'd be a little bit different. But like you said, I'm 10 fights deep. I fought in front of a crowd many times, big crowds, and I feel more at home and comfortable with that. And then it being at home is just, to me, it's all positive. There's not really any negative part of that. So, uh, yeah, I think it's a good thing.
With this fight too, like we've seen Abdul slow down a bit in fights. So do you think the longer it goes, the more it benefits you, especially at Elevation?
Yeah, I feel like that would be the narrative for sure. If you look at his fights, he has I think 6 wins in the UFC, five are in the first round, and the sixth one is like 10 seconds into the second round. So he gets the job done quick. I feel like if you're able to kind of I feel like he gets tired because people will grapple him hard and really push that grappling pace, and his cardio isn't really built for that. If you don't push that hard grappling pace, I feel like he's not going to get tired. So that's kind of like a necessary thing. You definitely have to mix the martial arts, but you can't get reckless. You can't just kind of get desperate because he's got one shot knockout power, and he'll put your lights out if you get desperate.
How do you kind of see this one playing out then?
I think just being composed and patient is going to be a big thing for me. And I can't get reckless because that's when it's 50-50. If you get reckless, I'm not saying that I'll lose every time, but it definitely gives him the best opportunity to win. And so I think just being patient and calm and like I said, mixing of the martial arts. And I feel like I get him out of there. I'm a finisher. He's a finisher. And we don't like seeing the scorecards. So I think as long as I go out there and do a good job of blending the martial arts and, being patient, I'll find a way to get him out of there, whether that's by TKO or submission. I think I get him out of there.
What do you think a win here does for you? Like it puts you in this division.
Hopefully get another contract. I'll be 11-6, 5-5 in the UFC. This is the third fight of my newest
Yeah.
contract. So I still have two more fights. I wouldn't like to fight. I don't really want to fight it out. I'd rather sign a new deal. It's kind of how everybody is. You don't really want to fight your contracts out. You want to just get a new contract. So hopefully a new contract and hopefully two more fights this year. I love staying busy. 3 to 4 fights is what I want, four preferably. I'm always in the gym. I've been fortunate throughout my career. I've been able to stay pretty healthy. So, I don't know who it gives me next, but the doors start to open a little bit for me. 10 fights deep, you start to be able to fight guys with a little bit more experience, and you're not really seeing those contender series kids as much. So I can't imagine they'd really be giving me those guys. It'd be more guys like Gerald Mearshart, people like that, and I look forward to those matchups. I think they're good matchups. They make sense. And, got to handle business obviously in July, but there's
Mhm.
definitely some good matchups to finish out the year as well.
And then how important is having Josh on the card, like just a fellow middleweight, like someone kind of peaking at the same time as you? And like he was telling me how like obviously you're a big part of his camp because he's fighting Petroski, which is a very good grappler. So like, and then he's a good striker as well. So like, how kind of beneficial has that been for you?
Yeah, it's been good. Josh is one of my good buddies, and we kind of have come up together. I feel like we have a pretty similar rise in the UFC and story, and it'll just be fun. It'll be fun to compete with him. We go hard. We push each other really hard, and I feel like we both feel prepared for our fight because we're fighting every week with each other. And it's good when you can have that. We have a really good relationship, but it gets heated in the training sessions, and I think that's a positive thing, and will make us sharp for fight night.
Who is going to be the corner? Like obviously Mark and who else?
Mark, Colin, and Dustin, those are my three. I always ride with those guys. They've been with me pretty much every single one of my fights if they're able. So I'll just keep it the same. And it's always good vibes with those guys.
Just final thing you kind of touch on a bit, but like what is kind of the rest of the year kind of goals for you then?
Yeah, I'd like to, get this win and then get a couple more fights. I think 4 fights in the year. I want to be like the most active dude at 85. It's not easy with Kevin Holland and people like that, but that would be something that I would shoot for. And then, I as far as like ranking and things like that, I'm not even really thinking about things like that. I just want to get some more experience, get some more fights. Like I said, I love fighting. It's my favorite thing to do. So, uh, the more opportunities I can get, the better.
Oh well, Cody, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Have a good one.
All right, we're Joe UFC middleweight Andre Petroski who's back in action here at UFC Denver. Andre, how's it going, man?
Living the dream.
Back in action like July 13th. Like, was this about the right time frame for you after that last fight then?
Yeah, it's perfect. I don't like to sit around too much, so it was good. It was good. It was perfect. I think it was March 30th to July 13th is what? 3 months? 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
April, May, June. April, May, June. So it was
Yeah,
like
what,
a
4 months?
little over 3
Yeah,
months.
but I guess it was the end of the month you fought at, so it's like 3.5, kind of something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's perfect for me. That's
Uh,
that's 3 or 4 fights a year.
just the only thing I want to touch on that last fight, like, what do you take away from that? Like, it's obviously a super kind of weird ending to how everything happened. Like, what kind of you take away from that fight? I imagine it was pretty frustrating for you how it ended.
For sure. Yeah, it's frustrating knowing that I was beating him. I was up. I probably it hadn't been for that, I would have been up 2 rounds. I was winning that round, and all three judges gave me the first round. So, um, yeah, that yes, of course, it's frustrating. What I can take from it though is like just being more dangerous, like when I'm hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of the best are like Oliveira and like Verdum had a good blueprint back in the day. Like anytime he would get clipped, he would, his guard was so dangerous. Like once you would get clipped, guys would just come in for ground and pound. He would catch an armbar or a triangle. Like he was really good at that. Oliveira is kind of the same way. Like he can get clipped and he's even more dangerous on the ground. So I've been kind of just like reevaluating, like, even if you're hurt, like this is the time where you catch guys off guard.
Mm-hmm. And going into this one and Josh Fremd, like, did you really care who it was, or was it just kind of whoever they gave you?
No, the opponent was. I know that I'm not coming off 2 losses. I'm not in a position to be picking opponents. I'm just trying to get. Really, I'm just trying to fight. Like I
Mhm.
want to just fight and show what I've been working on. I think that I started showing a lot of it, like especially the striking. Not that Malkoon's like a high level striker or anything, but um, like it's like two or three fights in a row where I'm out striking guys. Not in a row, but Mearshart, Turman, Malkoon, like I think that I'm starting to show. I want to continue to show like the progress I'm making.
With Josh, like how familiar were you with him, or did you have to kind of look him up?
No, we actually we trained together about 3.5 years ago. I did 2 months at Factory X, and we trained a bunch together.
I guess with it being that long ago, like you don't really look back on the training much then for this fight.
It's funny. I actually found the rounds. I had them on like a flash drive or something, like a USB flash drive, and I found the old rounds, at least like 2 or 3 or 4 of them. But it's cool just to go back and watch. You know what I mean? Just to see. But yeah, I mean, obviously we've both have grown substantially um, since then.
Yeah, what that would have been like before you in the UFC then, or like kind of right
Yeah,
after?
yeah. So I went out there. So during in the beginning of COVID, um, we couldn't get fights out here. There was no fights in Philly, so I ended up taking a fight for LFA. I fought Aaron Jeffrey out in LFA,
Mm.
but I went to Factory X for 2 months, and then we stopped. And then I went there for a month to check it out because a lot of the gyms were closed around here too. And then after I was there for a month, they got me a fight for LFA. So then I ended up staying another month and then driving there and fighting and coming back.
With this one too, like going out to Denver, like in elevation, like do you worry about that, or you go out early to get accustomed to it? Like what's kind of the plan for that?
Yeah, so we're gonna go out 2 weeks early. I think it's
Mhm.
kind of a no brainer to be
Yeah.
honest. Just set myself up for success as much as possible. Just give myself time to acclimate. I've done it before. Like I was there for 2 months before, so I kind of know what to expect. Um, but also like just to get away.
Mhm.
Get away from. I got 3 kids here. It's just my daughters are scratching to kill each other. So I gotta just get locked in. You know what I mean? A little bit more, and it'd be good. It'd be good 2 weeks. My coaches are coming, so
Do you think the elevation is that big of a deal? I think it gets overplayed by like people going into fights.
um, I think that like if you go, like it takes a day. It's gonna take a couple days to acclimate, but I
Yeah.
think that after a while, it's not a big deal. That's
Uh,
been my experience. I've also never fought in that elevation, but um, just from training there, like I remember like even when guys that have been there before would come back, the first day or two you could get them. You know what I mean? You could put some pressure on them, but just with anything else, everyone, you acclimate.
Josh obviously is lives out there now. Like he'll be the fan favorite. Like, do you kind of enjoy that where you'll probably get booed and like people are going to be hating on you?
You think he'll be the fan favorite?
I just think because he's from there, they'll be cheering for him. Or not from there, but lives out there and trains there now.
He's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but he lives in Denver now. So when like Bruce introduces him, you'll say like fighting out of Colorado, Denver. So they'll get excited, I imagine.
Yeah, I guess that helps. I don't know. We'll see.
Uh, Going into this one, like how do you kind of see it playing out then?
Um, I just think I'm better everywhere. I mean, I think he is dangerous. He's got like some finishing power or finishing abilities. Um, but I just think I'm a much better grappler. I think my striking's better personally. Um, I mean, the only guy that he fought that had really good striking was his last fight against Nikita Krylov, and I mean, we see how that went. That was kind of ugly.
Uh,
Oh,
with this,
not
like, is
Nikita
it
Krylov. Sorry,
Kopylov, Roman
Kopylov.
Kopylov?
Yeah.
Is there like, do you feel like there's pressure on you going to this one, just coming off 2 losses in a row? Or, like, do you not really think about that?
um,
Because of that one fight, you kind of, I feel like the UFC doesn't really won't hold that one against you because he flew across the world and stepped up on like 5 days notice or whatever it was.
Yeah. I don't know. I try not to think. I don't really think about it anyway, but I try not to if I did think about it.
What do you think a win over Josh does for you then here?
I do think it could put me in a position to get like a Bo Nickel fight.
That's still the fight you want? Like, I actually think, as much as losing sucks, like I think it kind of puts you in a better position to get that fight.
Right. I mean, look. No. I obviously my focus is on this fight here.
Yeah.
But the fact that, well, obviously he didn't sign the fight. Bo didn't sign the contract to fight Malkoun.
No, Malkoun's fighting.
But when it was announced and I thought that it was official, I was just thinking like, yeah, it makes total sense that they watched our fight and they saw how easily I took him down. And they were like, oh, this is a perfect matchup for Bo. On paper, Bo would be a way higher level wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
So like anyone that I could take, but nonetheless, they're looking to fight grapplers, which was not what they wanted to do before. They only fought, Pickett or Val, the other guy. They fought no grapplers, no one that could grapple. Then he fought Cody Brundage, who's a grappler.
Yeah,
I imagine I'm somewhere down the line.
Just final thing for you though is like, what is kind of the goal then for the rest of the year? Like, already second fight this year, middle-ish of the year. So like, what is kind of the goal then for the rest of the year for you?
I mean, I'm not looking past this fight, to be honest. I just want to go out and show, like, put a full fight together. You know what I mean? Like, obviously that first round was a good first round against Malkoun. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I outstruck him. I took him down. I mat returned him. Like, I cut him. I dropped him. Like, dude, that's a great first round. So I think it's just, and I've had great first rounds, but like, I think it's just a matter of just putting it all together.
Well, Andre, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. All right, we're joined by UFC middleweight Josh Fremd, who's back in action here at UFC Denver. Josh, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's going well, man. Going well.
First thing, like, obviously you're from Pittsburgh, but now living in Colorado. So how excited were you when you got the call that you'd be on this Denver card? Because kind of a home fight for you outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would take this as a home game because I've been living here for the last four and a half years. And, man, I was so excited. Once I heard it was announced that the UFC was coming to Denver, even before it was announced, I heard like little whispers of it. Man, I kind of just locked in on this date and I manifested it. Like, I was told many times that it's probably not going to happen. It's this, that, the other. But like, I just kept, anytime I was talking to my buddies, talking to teammates, I just kept saying, I'm going to be on this card. I'm going to be on this card. I just kept saying it and I manifested it. And then literally 2 days after, my manager's like, oh, it's probably not going to happen. It's booked. Boom, I get a call 2 days later. Hey, we got someone for you. So I know how this game works. So once I heard that date, I was pretty much locked in on it.
You're obviously supposed to fight Cesar Almeida in April. I know you had to pull out of that one. Like, when were you kind of cleared and ready to take a fight then? Like, was this about the time frame you thought?
No, this was around the time frame because I think I've told one interview because I didn't let it go. The reason why I had to pull out of the Cesar fight was because I got in 2 car accidents within 2 weeks of each other in March. So none of which were my fault. I was sitting at a red light on one of them, and then another one, an Uber driver ran a red light. So it kind of messed me up. So it took a little bit of time to heal up from that and get healthy. And I told myself I wanted to fight in the summer. So what better card to get on than the Denver one?
With it too, like just training in Denver, do you think that's a big advantage here for you against Petroski? Like just being with the elevation? Like everyone kind of talks about how hard it is to breathe and like deal with, especially later in the rounds. Like, do you think that is a big benefit for all you guys that are local on this card?
Oh, I mean, 100%. Like you can't deny science, right? So, I mean, obviously that's going to be a huge thing, but that's not going to be my main focus. Like I think that if we were both at sea level, my gas tank would just destroy his. I think I can push a hard pace for a very, very long time. And I don't think he can. And if you add into the factor that, yeah, we're in Denver, it's a little thin up here. It is kind of helpful, but it's not the only thing.
With Andre, like how familiar were you with him? Like went on tough, has been in the UFC for a bit. Like, were you pretty familiar then?
Yeah, we used to train together. He came out here, tried out Factory X. We both fought on an LFA card together. I drove him to the airport when we fought on that card together. So I'm familiar with him. He's a cool guy. I have nothing but respect for him. I have nothing negative to say about him. He's always cool with me. So I'm familiar with him. I'm familiar with his style. I'm familiar with his game plan, his tactics. And yeah, I mean, I've watched him all through. He's from Philly. I'm from Pittsburgh. So like I've watched him. I thought I was going to fight him as an amateur, low level pro. What better way to meet than on the UFC, the biggest stage of them all?
I actually talked to him and he mentioned that you guys did a couple rounds together, but it was like 3-4 years ago. He said like doesn't play much of a role, like just because of how much you guys have grown. Do you kind of
Yeah.
agree with that, where the training really isn't much of a factor, like something you can look back on?
Yeah. I mean, it was years ago. And it was only a couple rounds, and sparring is different than fighting. And, you're trying to keep your teammates safe and everything. So that plays no factor. It's been years. We both have evolved as fighters, as men, as individuals. So I'm excited because I know Andre's good. Like he is a good fighter. So I am excited to go out there and bring it to him.
What have you made of his last two fights? Like he took that Pereira fight on super short notice. Like I think he was in like Thailand, flew back to Vegas, had to cut all that weight. Obviously didn't go his way. And then his last fight was kind of super weird with Malkoun, how that one ended.
Oh, I know he can get knocked out. That's all I took from it. Like I know that this man, I can separate his consciousness from him because I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen in a fluke, and I've seen it happen in a punch. So that's what I've taken away from it. Like I said, he's a good fighter. I take nothing away from him. He's a great wrestler, good fighter. But I know that he's able to be put out, and I think that I have the ability to do that.
And with Andre, like kind of the knock on him, even on tough, was his cardio. Like it's kind of why he lost Aaron Jeffrey on that LFA fight. He's kind of faded in some UFC fights. Like, do you just think the longer the fight goes, like the more favorite is for you in this one?
Oh, 100%. He has to get me out of there in the first 2.5 minutes. And if he doesn't get me out of there in the first 2.5 minutes, he's fucked.
He is more of a wrestler than striker. I know he has been kind of working on striking, so do you just expect him to wrestle you pretty early and often then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm ready for everything. I'm not worried about getting knocked out in this fight. Obviously I'm going to be P's and Q's, cross my T's, dot my I's, but I know what his game plan is. I know what he's good at, and I'm ready for it.
How do you kind of see it playing out then?
Me winning.
Yeah, that's all that matters to you. Just get you.
I don't care if it's a 15-minute, we're bloody, beaten, whatever. I don't care if it's 20 seconds in. I want to win, and I'm going to win.
What do you think a win does for you? Like Andre was a guy before that Pereira fight, like was on a good win streak, like kind of getting close to those rankings. Like you fought you fought Anthony Hernandez, you fought Kopilov, kind of right there. So like, what do you think a win here does for you?
Keeps me my job. That's what I'm focused on. I want to keep my job in the UFC. Like I said, Andre's good. Yeah, he had a couple good wins. I don't put too much stock in those wins because I think a couple of those were kind of like pick me wins. But when he fights really good guys, when he fights good guys like I consider myself, you see it's not the same. So that's what I'm excited to go out there and show.
Do you think like you could get caught with a loss, or is that just kind of your mindset then? Like, why do you kind of think that?
Yeah, I mean, dude, nothing in this game is guaranteed. Yeah, I'm on my second fight of this new 4-fight deal. But if I lose, they could still cut me. It doesn't matter. Like if you lose and they don't you also got to look at the future. Like, you have the Dana White Contender Series coming up. You have the Ultimate Fighter guys. You have a lot of people being signed on short notice. So every fight you're fighting for your job.
Yeah, because I guess Tough is 85 this season too. So like you're gonna have probably 2-3 of those guys get signed eventually. So like I guess that is true, especially for you guys, where they're gonna start probably cutting a couple middleweights.
Yeah.
Who are kind of the main guys you work for this camp? Like Andre's a pretty heavy wrestler, a lot of good guys at Factory X. Like, who is it? The same kind of crew you always work with?
Yeah, same crew. I am blessed that I get to train with a stud, Cody Brundage, who he's just so good, man. I know that some of his fights and his record doesn't show it right at this moment, but that guy is on another level. Talented, good, hardworking. I get to train with Dustin Jacoby, who has honestly made me a better striker and a better athlete in general. And then Rob Wilkinson, I mean, he just goddamn dude made me tough. That guy is a son of a bitch to work with. But yeah, just same crew, just getting after it every day.
I guess Cody, I didn't even, I've slipped my mind that he was there, but I always talk to you guys about Cody. I guess he's kind of a perfect guy for this fight, because he's just like probably about as good, or if not better, wrestler than what Andre is. And like,
yeah, no, I would put him above Andre in every category, especially his striking. Like, Cody has just evolved so much since he's moved here, and I've got to witness it. Like, I witnessed the guy's growth, and I think he's way better than Andre at wrestling, way better in the stand-up. And I mean, he lives out here, he trains out here. So if I can push a pace on Cody, then I know I can push a pace on Andre.
Is there any pressure just fighting like kind of in your new home, and like kind of all the people being like, oh, can you get me tickets? Or just like all the people like, oh, I'm showing up to watch you. Like, is there a bit of added pressure?
Yeah, dude, there's always pressure. I mean, yeah, it's a little added pressure because I've kind of, put my roots in here in Denver, and, I'm connected with a lot of people out here, especially downtown. And yeah, I get people, I play in this like intramural kickball and softball league. So it's a co-ed league. So like, I always have people like, I'm coming to your fight. We're going to be there. So yeah, it's pressure for sure. But I love that pressure. I'm not worried about if I lose, oh, what are they going to think? If I win, it doesn't matter to me. My goal is to go out there and do what I love to do in front of my friends, in front of the people I love. And that, to me, is key. I don't know if you're like, if you ever watch How I Met Your Mother or anything, but like, nothing is legendary unless your friends are there to see it. So I'm excited that I get to fight in Denver with a lot of the friends I've made, the people I've met. And yeah, pressure makes diamonds.
Are you surprised there's not more of you guys from Fact X on this card? Like, what is it? Just you and kind of Cody then? Like, I thought they'd get a lot more of you guys on this card just in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, we had other people on there. I don't know what's out there now or anything, so I won't comment on it. But yeah, man, I don't know how they don't have more people from our gym, Elevation. Like, I don't know how Brandon Royval's not on this card. Like, I feel almost just mean about it, because I'm like, man, if I'd give my spot up for Brandon to have it, because he's from here, he's the guy here. You go hang out with that guy downtown, like, he's can't walk 2 feet without getting pictures taken. Like, that's the man here. So, and this is his city, so I don't know how he's not on it.
Just final thing, like, you get past Andre, like, what is kind of the goal then the rest of the year for you?
I want to fight once or twice more. I would love twice more if things align in that manner. But I'm not thinking too far ahead. I want to go and I want to win this fight, and then I want to go home next month and watch my sister get married. My little sister's getting married, so my brain is win this fight, make a lot of money, go home, watch my little sister get married, and then we'll go from there.
Oh, well, Josh, I appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for doing this.
Hey, thank you, Cole. You have a great rest of your day.